Hi, guys, and welcome to a new episode of a Trip of a Lifetime podcast with me, Celeste.
And me, Jasmine.
And today we are talking about Aliens in London and World War Three, the first two-parter of Series 1. I think it's episode 4 and 5. It was directed by Keith Boak and written by Russell T Davies, and it aired on the 16th and 23rd of April 2005, respectively. What was your general feel about this two-parter?
I liked it a lot more than previous episodes, and I found that it really had certain aspects. There's so many little hidden things in it. Not as much as Rose, but they all have their own. They all flow together towards later episodes, and they will link in some kind of way.
So you mean like foreshadowing and kind of themes that they build on later on?
Yes, especially with the Doctor. These two episodes give him quite a lot of depth and more character development, or maybe not development, but more backstory into what he's like and his other sides, other than just the will save people.
Yeah. I liked how when Rose arrives back to the Power State, the whole place is empty. It kind of foreshadows the twist that you find out in a couple of seconds. It's just been gone a year, not 12 hours like she'd expected, in the fact that it kind of builds up this ominous atmosphere, like it's completely deserted, like something unusual is going to happen. It's interesting how Russell, as soon as he brings back Rose, back to Earth, that he runs straight into the she's been gone for this long, because I guess it kind of shows the audience how time travel isn't just like the fun adrenaline junky experience that you see on the screen. Like there's a lot, it impacts the real world. There's people left behind and there can be consequences, and I think that's a very good way of introducing that into the show without killing off a character or something.
Adding to that kind of idea of there's consequences, in the first few minutes after she comes back, you have the whole Jackie was being smart about with you didn't take your passport, and there was real life consequences such as the police questioning Mickey, all the flyers, and the whole chaotic where has she gone kind of vibe.
Yeah, it is interesting that you find out that Jackie has blamed Mickey for her disappearance, like saying that, spreading rumors that he killed her, kind of thing. Because I guess looking back at it as someone who's already watched the show, I mainly associate Jackie and Mickey with having quite a good relationship. Like they're quite close. So it was a bit jarring to realise that actually their relationship in the show didn't start out like that. Yeah, then you've got like the Bad Wolf spray paint on the side of the TARDIS. It's a really iconic kind of photo. Yeah, not photo.
Symbol.
Yeah, kind of. It's been used in like lots of merchandise. Like I've got a kind of vinyl TARDIS, like the pop vinyls. It's like that, but it was made by Titan. And it's of the TARDIS, and it's got the Bad Wolf graffiti on it. It's from that episode. So they have used that in marketing and stuff. It's quite an iconic, I don't know, image. And then like when Jackie kind of gets Rose back, you can like visibly see her go through like the 5 stages of grief on the screen. And I love that about Russell's writing, is that his characters, even the side characters, feel real. He doesn't just have Jackie blow it off and go, yeah, whatever. She is genuinely upset and genuinely angry, mainly at the Doctor, but a little bit at Rose. So I guess we should probably move on to the actual start of the plot, and that's the spaceship crashing into Big Ben. No, because they actually used because they'd used up most of their CGI budget with episode 2, End of the World, where the sun expands and everything, that they actually used a small model replica of Big Ben and had like a model little spaceship crash into it, and that's why it looks so real, is because it's a model, not CGI.
I did not know that. I'm absolutely shocked.
Did you not? No,
No.
it's in a lot of like behind the scenes books. I think I've got one. I can show you it later if I can find it. Yeah, so they spent like ages building a proper like Big Ben replica model just so they could smash it for that one shot.
I'm gonna add to that. So it's kind of, there's a bit of irony because I think it's Rose who says, "I'm the only person on planet Earth who knows you exist." And then as that happens, there's a spacecraft that crashes.
Yeah, I think she says aliens in general. But yeah, I guess that helps Jackie kind of acclimatize to the Doctor and what's happened a lot quicker than if that hadn't have happened. So this was actually written in response as like a kind of a parody of how the British government reacted to 9/11 and how they went with war and brutality rather than sitting down and being all calm about it, and that's why they waged war against, I'm not sure which country in the Middle East it was, um, and caused a lot of unnecessary civilian deaths. I can't speak. And so obviously this is Russell getting really annoyed about that, and actually Harriet actually comments on it in the episode saying that she didn't vote for that lot at one point, so there is the implication that she's probably Labour rather than Conservative. Yeah, so it's interesting how when the spaceship crashes, I feel like I'm speaking a lot, I'm sorry, it immediately it doesn't cut back to the Doctor and Rose straight away, it cuts back to mass panic. You see people panicking in the streets, and you also see it later when they start having massive like parties and gatherings where they're they've got those banners hanging up like, we are not alone, and aliens welcome and things like that. That it's quite funny that like British people, like stereotypical British people, the first thing they do when confronted with this new thing is start drinking and having a party. You know what I mean? It just feels so normal at this level of realism. I mean, even as the Doctor's walking back to the TARDIS, you can hear like a heckler from one of the balconies trying to call him into the party to perhaps sleep with him or something. Like, I just love that Russell just adds these tiny little details in there.
I agree with you on that. I forgot what I was gonna say.
It's fine, I can
I was
keep
gonna say
going.
something. Oh yes. It was about, so what I was gonna say was, I was gonna say again about this whole idea of real life consequences, whereas in other films or shows they don't really show the aftermath or what the mass think. They only show the main characters.
Yeah, I guess I think Stephen Moffat does it a bit later on with Amy and Rory. Like, there's a lot of consequences in the fact that they're aging a lot differently to their friends. Also, like Rory's father Brian comments on it quite a bit, although some of that is actually Christian Bale's influence, weirdly, considering he hasn't inputted that into his own era. But it's fine. Yeah, because there isn't really that sense of realism in the Chibnall era, because I don't know, like, can you think of, other than Arachnids in the UK, where that one hotel gets infested, and the fact that the Daleks briefly invade in Revolution. Is it Revolution? Yeah. You don't see Yaz's parents commenting on any of it later on. You don't see them cutting. Occasionally, you cut to maybe like one family in their home or something, but you don't see people screaming in the streets. You know what I mean? I just find it funny that the Doctor and Rose's first reaction or well, more Rose's first reaction is like, oh, we can just watch it on the TV, because they can't get through to the centre of London, and it feels so normal. You know what I mean? I don't think that's happened in any of the other episodes, not even in the rest of Russell's era. They're not just sitting back and watching it on TV. They're in the action. It's a great way of, I guess, setting up how dire the consequences are, because it's the entire country knows about it, the entire world knows about it. There's ramifications for the entire planet, and that's why I love the Slovene as villains, is because, I mean, if you get rid of the really awful fart jokes, they are actually really menacing. I mean, if you think about it, like, sure, you can defeat them quite easily with the vinegar and stuff. And, if one Slovene can feel the pain of all the other Slovenes. But it's just, they have these really long talons, they're like 8 feet tall, and they have this super sense of smell. So you can't outrun them, you can't hide from them. If you were to, like, it would be really interesting for them to do a slasher-esque episode with just one Brachiosaurus Valedictorian, doesn't have to be from the Slovene family, just hunting the Doctor and the Companion, or a group of characters. Like, that would be a really cool episode. Like, you didn't, I mean, provided you've got enough CGI and and the prosthetics allow you to have the character walking around constantly. Like, you wouldn't have like the skin suits in that case necessarily. Yeah, not even the skin suits. That's horrifying. Like, sure, it's a bit of a joke because you can actually see the zipper in it, and like you can tell that it's not like real, but like the concept is kind of awful, right?
Yeah, there's a specific scene that I really, or like moment that I really don't like, which is regarding the CGI of their body, where they run through the door.
Yeah, that hasn't really aged well. But the thing is, the suits were so kind of structured that they couldn't run in the actual suits. They had to animate that, and clearly that particular bit of CGI they skimped a bit, because in a couple of episodes' time, in the long game, there's actually a bit of CGI, a CGI monster that's actually quite good. But this, it wasn't great. It wasn't terrible, but it wasn't great. Sorry, you gonna say something?
Toshiko!
We'll get to her in a minute. We'll get to her in a minute. Right, but back to the Doctor and Rose watching TV. Obviously, like the actual broadcast itself and the phone number on there is actually used by Jackie later on. There is a relevance to that, but it's a way of telling exposition without having someone spout exposition. You know what I mean? Like, it feels natural because it's following a structure, it's following a news broadcast. They're supposed to tell you information, that's the point of them. And then you've also got like the little kids taking the remote control, telling it over to Blue Peter, and then you've actually got Matt Baker, who I think we probably know better from like the one show in Country File, because he'd kind of left Blue Peter by the time I'd started watching it. I don't know about you.
I honestly have no idea because I don't think I watched Blue Peter at all.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, I did occasionally. It wasn't like every week. It wasn't a show I watched religiously. And he's like making a spaceship cake, like in the full "here's one I made earlier" style, which I just find so funny that straight away like every like live TV show just adapts to that. I just and Russell does this a lot in Years and Years. I'll keep bringing the show up because it's so fantastic, but he does the same thing. Like, you have one of the politicians in that show go on Pointless, and a few other shows that you know from pop culture, or you would if you're in the UK.
Was the Fantastic a pun?
No, it wasn't. That was a complete accident. Um, there's also briefly the first instance of Trinity Wells appearing. I don't know if you. I mean, you'll know the character. You won't necessarily know the name, but she's the American broadcaster. The black woman American broadcaster. You don't. Seriously, she's in like almost every like big finale. Like, she's in the end of season 3. I think she pops up at the end of time as well. Okay, fair enough. Like, I mean, she's a big enough deal that she almost got like a proper like live action part in the I say live action, like she isn't already live action, but I mean she'd be in the middle of the action, like meeting the Doctor in the End of Time Part 1. But then Russell cut that out because the dialogue was a bit cringe, even though he does love the character. Yeah, she's kind of an inconsequential character. She's very small, but she does pop up quite a bit, so I thought I'd mention it. And then you've also got the first, time unit show up in New Who. Now they actually refer to them as the United Nations Intelligence Task Force. Now, after this episode aired, the UN complained about it because obviously it's a fictional organization. They didn't want it, being associated with a real life. What's the word? A real life organization. So they ended up changing it to the United? Yeah, United Intelligence Task Force, I think. No, Unified Intelligence Task Force. There we go. Also, the other real life presenter that I recognise that was on TV is Andrew Marr. Now, I never watched the Andrew Marr TV show. I'm not sure whether this is before he started doing that or whether, and he got that show shortly afterwards. It's been cancelled now, but it was like this political show where he'd get like politicians on and debate with them about stuff. Yeah, anyway, it's kind of irrelevant, but now you can get on to Tishiko.
I loved her. She was great in that episode. I was really happy to see her. And if you guys don't know, she's from Torchwood, which we'll cover in a later episode.
Yeah, we'll get once we finish season 2 of Doctor Who, we'll move on to season 1 of Torchwood because it was released shortly after season 2 of Doctor Who. So and actually it was, is it Nakamori? I'm not entirely sure how to pronounce her first name. But it was her performance as Toshiko, although actually she's only actually referred to as Dr. Sato in this. But it's her performance in this that made Russell go, we're making that character, we're putting that character in Torchwood. Like, that's why. Yeah, so she's great. She, because I remember watching this episode and thinking she's really cool. Did not realise she was also in Torchwood. Because, I didn't watch Torchwood until like a year ago or so. Maybe 2 years. No, 2 years ago now, 2020. I think I started watching it. It's interesting because the only member of the main Torchwood crew from season 1, 2 that hasn't appeared in the main Doctor Who show is Owen. Like, he never shows up. Mainly because, like, I guess I'm not sure how you'd fit him into a Doctor Who episode because he's very not PG in the sense that he's constantly going on making references to sex and things like that, and he's constantly swearing. So I don't know if he'd work in that aspect. He's also a very dark character, and he's. Anyway, we'll get into that later when we get to Torchwood. But we've got Tosh in this episode. We had Eve Miles as Gwen's ancestor in a previous episode, The Unquite Dead. Yeah, it was literally last episode. And then we actually get both Eve Miles back as actual Gwen, like present day Gwen, along with Yanto in Stolen Earth Journey's End at the end of season 4. And then Jack kind of pops up throughout season 1, 3, and 4, and later on, but
Spoilers.
Yeah, spoilers. Although I feel like most people know how big Jack is as a character. Then we got introduced to Harriet Jones, MP for Flydale North and future Prime Minister. She's a massive character in the first 4 seasons. I don't think she appears in series 3, but she's her presence is kind of felt. We get to see her kind of go from this MP that nobody has heard of, nobody really cares about, and literally next time you see her, she is Prime Minister. Right at the start of season 2. There's some other like small things that we get to see, like Rose getting the TARDIS key, and we also get introduced to Margaret Blaine, aka oh god, what's her name? Oh, I can't remember the Slythein's name. I used to know the name off by heart, and I can't remember. It's I've got it. Blonfell Foch Passamaday Slytherin. There we go. It took me a bit. I knew it. She does actually, spoilers for this, but she does pop up later on. The rest of them don't. But she, I think, Annette Badland. She is so good at being a villain. And I don't think I've ever seen her in a villain's role since that, because I remember seeing her in the Sparkle Mystery. She played like a professor character. And I also remember seeing her in Wizards vs. Aliens playing like the grandma to the main character. And she was great in that. And also Wizards vs. Aliens was actually executive produced by Russell T Davies, so and he wrote some of the episodes, but I'm not sure if he showrun it. I don't think he did. I think he was just executive producer. Now let's get to, like, the actual alien plot, right? Because you have the Slovene and their plan. Basically they are capitalists, which politicians wanting to fuck something up so they could get more money. What a surprise! So you have like the Slovene, they fake that alien landing with the pig by basically it's a lot of body horror. They basically like do brain surgery and stuff this pig into this like spacesuit and shove it in a spaceship and make it like loop the planet. Um Basically this is to basically distract some people because they've from finding their spaceship and drawing mass panic so they could basically set off World War III by um setting off a nuclear war by releasing loads of missiles. And they obviously stage a takeover by become killing the people in power, whether it's an army general, whether it's the head. Margaret Blaine's the head of, was it MI5 or MI6? So it's kind of like, I guess it starts off as a coup and ends up as, well, an attempt to wage war on the rest of the world so the planet gets destroyed so they can sell it off for money.
One more thing on the theme of the Slovene is that there's this undertone of body positivity by them. For example, when two of them are in a lift, I'm pretty sure the other one said, one of them was like, "Oh, I don't feel comfortable in this skin suit," and then the other one was like, "Oh, you should love your body. Like you can take the skin suit off."
It was something like, your body is beautiful, rejoice in it, or something. Yeah, I do quite like that. There's a bit of irony there, I guess, in the sense that these characters you're supposed to dislike are all played by larger actors. Um, but that is explained by the fact they can't actually squeeze into thin people. But I do like the fact that they made they're made into villains, I guess, in the sense that when you see a fat person playing a character on TV, they're normally like the jolly best friend. Like they rarely get to do anything else. Like whether it's like basically any James character played by James Corden. I mean, he does actually play a character in Doctor Who later on, but you know what I mean. They're always like this jolly kind of character, and they don't tend to get the love interest or anything. And
It's a nice change of pace because it breaks the stereotype.
yeah, kinda. But then you've also got the argument that portraying fat people as bad is also bad. But I guess with any kind of underrepresented type of person in media, you can't just have good people all the time. You know what I mean? Like, you've got to have the good and the bad. You can't have every LGBT plus person be a nice person because not all of them are. You can't have every black person be a nice person because not all of them are. Like, you know, they are people. They're gonna be different. You can't expect them all to be exactly the same.
There was a few speeches that I really liked, such as Nine's speech when he gets trapped inside of the room with all the important people. I'm sorry if I don't have the right words. And he's saying about this is not a diversion, it's a trap, and he's got like this revelation of this, and you can see it coming into his face, like as he realizes that it's a trap.
Yeah, and I guess there's also that bit in the second episode where he gets locked, or he's in that room with, yeah, he's locked in the room with Rose and Harriet, and Sylvia and Sylvia? No, that's Doctor's mum. No, Jackie. God, Jackie and Mickey are like stuck in Mickey's apartment. The Slytherin's about to crash through, um, and so like the Doctor's quickly having to work out which planet they're from, which species they are. But the way of getting through this without making it seem over expositiony is the fact that Rose is chipping in and Harriet chips in, and every time they say something, he's like narrows it down, narrows it down, narrows it down. I love, I love that sequence so much. It's great. But also, like in that, um, well, again, whilst they're locked in the room, when they all kind of take a drink of port, you know, Rose is like sips it. You've got Harriet who drinks it, and the Doctor like starts to drink it and then spits it back into the glass, and you see that a lot with Matt Smith. Like there's a really, again, going back to that episode with James Corden in it, the lodger. But there's like that scene where he like spits it back into the glass. And it's one of like, I guess a lot of people when they think of, you know, the Doctor not liking alcohol, they'll automatically think of 11. But actually, like Russell's been doing it from the beginning. Like either that or like that was improvised by Christopher Eccleston. But I don't think he's the kind of actor that improvises very often. I think he's very much kind of is on the page. I'll perform it that way. But I love that little detail. Also the Sonic again. One point when he uses it, it has that wave effect again. I've only ever seen it in that one and Rose. Like those are the only episodes I've seen that happen in. Now, one other thing that I remembered is actually before we do that, when Rose, the Doctor says to Rose, was saying to Jackie that basically he can't keep her safe, and there's that one option that he's not sure if she'll survive, and that he's not sure to do it. Because of that, you can actually pinpoint the moment the Doctor falls in love with Rose in that scene because she's like, "Do it," and the Doctor just kind of looks off at her, and it's that little conversation, that little bit there. You can just tell the Doctor is now gone for Rose. Um, I think I'm not sure whether that is also the moment that she falls for the Doctor, or whether she takes a little bit longer. But I do think it's before he regenerates into Tennant, because I think that's why she's so kind of hostile to Tennant's Doctor to start off with, because she's very much, you know, still in love with Nine.
Okay, so I have a few details that I managed to notice in that episode, which are just going to be really random details, and I'm gonna let Celeste like see like what their opinion is, and if it has any kind of significance, which it probably doesn't, but I saw that when the Slovene found the red telephone, that there were M&Ms at the bottom, like just a random set of M&Ms. It was a close up of the phone, and there were some M&Ms in the shot, like on the table out of the packet.
I guess maybe they think that, you know, the person who's sitting there is going to be a bit hungry, maybe? I don't know. That's interesting. Okay.
I just found it very strange, like they're just there, and there's no packet in sight. It's just on the table. Like, do they like M&Ms or Skittles? There might have been Skittles. Um, I also noticed. So we also continued this stereotype of the guy in the chair, air quotes, where Mickey is being the tech guy hacking into places and finding information.
What do you mean by stereotype? Because I don't think they've actually done that in Doctor Who, or not very often.
No, I mean like more stereotypes in terms of like either heist films or superhero films.
Yeah, I guess. Like the tech guy, the computer whiz. Yeah, I suppose. But I don't think they use that trope too often in Doctor Who. I don't know, I'm trying to think of an example. I know they do use it occasionally, but I like that they don't overuse it and they don't rely on it on every episode like some, you know, some TV shows, especially if they're very formulaic, they do kind of. Anyway, carry on.
I also noticed that there were some small details which are really nice that were in Mickey's room, such as like a drawing of the TARDIS, Rose's missing poster, and some writings about UFOs. which I found really because he was talking about how in that year he looked up at the doctor, did his research, and it was a nice fitting piece.
Yeah, I remembered what I was going to say earlier. Okay, so you know when Harriet looks, she reads the emergency protocols. Now, this is like a minor spoiler, but in the Christmas Invasion, which is the next episode, you see Harriet in. She tells because one of her assistants to contact Torchwood, and they're like, "But you shouldn't know who that is." Now, I'm fairly certain. I think I've just realised it that the reason why she knows who Torchwood are is because she read it in the emergency protocols, which is something I don't know whether Russell had that conscious thought when he was writing it, or whether it came to him later on, or whether it's just a happy coincidence. But I just thought that was kind of cool. Anyway, carry on.
There was also, this is irrelevant, but well, actually, it's on the subject of Harriet Jones, so it's not really irrelevant. There's some quotes that kind of gave this foreshadowing of her becoming the prime minister. So like when the doctor's like, "Oh, Harriet Jones," it rings a bell, and all like just trying to figure out who she is and how he knows her. And then there's also, oh, what do I have here? Oh yeah, I also put Harriet Jones has some classic humor of the early 2000s. Like it, as soon as I saw her say something, it instantly reminded me of Miranda Hart,
Right.
and it gave off that classic early 2000s comedy vibe.
What was the line?
I can't remember, which sounds really bad, but they were in the room, uh, and they're talking to Mickey about using the Buffalo password and finding out certain information. And they'd already done, Rose might be put in danger bit. This was in the second part, which was World War Three. But that's I don't remember the specific line.
Okay. Anything else?
I was going to talk about the graphics. Now, not just the Slovene, I'm talking about the other graphics that were included in here. Now, I thought that the graphics were very good regarding the lighting, the lightning, and the light slash transitioning between human and Slovene. I, however, the only thing I didn't like, other than the running Slovene, is the slime when the Slovene burst. It didn't feel realistic graphic wise.
Yeah, again, they're kind of operating with what they had. I feel like they ended up perfecting it a lot better in the Sarah Jane Adventures. Hopefully we'll get to that sometime, quite a while in the future. Yeah, I also thought, when they're actually climbing out of the suits, like, sure, the blue light effect was really cool, but when they were actually stepping out the suits, I don't know, there was kind of like this wobbly effect if you're looking at their face, where it looks like the animation is kind of wobbling slightly, as if they're kind of, I don't know, like their head is kind of folding inwards almost. I thought it looked really weird. But maybe it was intentional, I'm not sure, but it looked a bit like there was a ripple that kind of ran across like the face, not as if like they were squeezing out of something, but as if like they'd accidentally put a ripple effect across it, kind of thing.
I have one more small thing, which is to do with the end.
Sure.
So at the very end, Jackie invites invites Rose to invite the doctor to dinner with them, and then he's like he instantly declines, and then gives this whole speech about why he doesn't want to go, and it adds to the whole idea that he doesn't do family because he refused to have families on his TARDIS, and that's what he said in, I think it's this episode or it was earlier on. Uh, and he says no to Jackie's dinner. And this might be time war related, or it might be to do with his upbringing in some kind of way. I don't know what you think.
I'm gonna cut in there. I think it's probably because he doesn't want to get close to too many people at once. He's still very kind of, I just mistrustful, and the fact that he's lost everything, so he doesn't want too much to then lose again. Also, I don't think he likes Jackie very much at this point. But it's interesting how after the Christmas invasion, once I don't know whether it's because he's now got a slightly different personality with 10, or whether his attitude towards Jackie in general changes because of the way she helps him out. during that episode, but he becomes a lot nicer to her and a lot, willing to do that kind of thing. Yeah. I also thought it was interesting how the Doctor actually offers to take Mickey with them. He asks Mickey, "Do you want to come?" Mickey declines, obviously. He actually ends up changing his mind later on in series 2. But for now, I guess maybe that's a choice that the Doctor sees that he's worthy enough to join them, and will come back to worthiness of characters to travel in the TARDIS in a couple of episodes' time with Adam. Because I guess there's an interesting parallel between the two, where Mickey declines to go, but he's offered, and then Adam kind of joins the TARDIS because Rose wants him to, and then he ends up screwing it up. Spoilers, slight spoilers. Yeah, so I find that interesting because they're both described by the Doctor as Rose's boyfriends. So
I would rate the episodes 8 out of 10. But no, actually, no, I changed it. Because I rated the first one 6.5 and the second one 8. But as an overall, I would say that they're around a 7 out of 10 personally for me.
I agree. I do love these episodes. I have a lot of fondness for them, but I don't think I can rate them that much higher than a 7. Maybe a 7.5 at a push. There's a lot of stakes. There's some good themes, a lot of character development, which is great. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it moves me. You know what I mean? Like, it needs to be a little bit higher. It needs to, to get a higher score, it needs to, have some sort of massive impact on me. But I do love this two-parter. Okay, so I think that's all we've got time for today on this particular episode. So hopefully you'll join us again soon when we discuss Dalek. Yeah, and I hope to see you next time.